They built her like a statement. A statement you could see from miles away. When the German battleship Bismarck slid into the ocean, she carried more than armor plate and steel frames. She carried the weight of a regime that wanted symbols, and a navy that needed proof it could challenge the world's greatest sea powers. On paper she looked formidable. 8 38-centimeter guns, with heavy armor and a broad, well-balanced silhouette that promised danger to anything in her sights. To the German public, and to many in Britain, she quickly became something larger than steel. She was a monster with a name. And that is where the problem starts. Because Bismarck's story is not the story of a warship that dominated an ocean. It is the story of a warship that became famous faster than it became strategically effective. Her reputation was enormous, but her actual career lasted barely 9 months from commissioning to destruction, and only days in actual combat. The legend did most of the fighting, the actual ship had little time to keep up with the myth. But Bismarck did end up firing her mighty guns, and Britain heard it loud and clear. The battle came in the Denmark Strait on the 24th of May, 1941. Cold waters, grey skies, and 2 British capital ships blocking the route south, the pride of the Navy, the mighty HMS Hood, and the newly commissioned, and somewhat green, HMS Prince of Wales. The engagement was short, violent, and unforgettable. Shells straddled, and water erupted in tall white columns. Within minutes, as if written in Hood's destiny, a shell from Bismarck detonated Hood's aft magazines. The pride of the Royal Navy broke apart in a catastrophic explosion, and from over 1,400 men, only 3 would survive. Bismarck had not merely sunk a ship, she had shattered a symbol and enraged a nation. In that moment, the myth locked into place. But today, detailed research into the wreck of HMS Hood and analysis of shell trajectories suggest just how extraordinarily fortunate Bismarck's fatal hit may have been. The shell that destroyed Hood appears to have taken a rare and devastating path into her vulnerable magazine spaces, a combination of angle, range, luck, and timing that could easily have ended differently. It was a lethal shot, unquestionably, but also one that relied on a measure of battlefield luck as much as gunnery skill. But however, from that day forward, people would speak of Bismarck as if she had ruled the sea. As if she had hunted freely, picking targets at will, changing the course of battles and changing war plans. But that is not what happened. What happened was the destruction of the myth. During the battle she was hit by several heavy shells from Prince of Wales. One penetrated near the bow and ruptured fuel tanks, contaminating fuel and leaving an oil trail. She lost valuable fuel and suffered flooding that seriously reduced her operational freedom. She abandoned the commerce raiding mission and set course for occupied France for critical repairs. The Royal Navy reacted with speed and fury. Battleships, cruisers, and destroyers were ordered to converge, and aircraft were launched from carriers. The Atlantic became a tightening net around a single damaged ship. For all her size, Bismarck was not a free predator in open water. She was a hunted vessel, leaking oil and short of options. This is a crucial point often lost in the legend. A battleship can be powerful, but it is not invincible. It needs fuel, it needs intelligence, it needs support. Bismarck would almost never have enough of these. The chase has since been told as high drama, and it really was a thrill, but inside the ship it was calculation and strain. Damage control, fuel estimates, radio silence. The knowledge that every hour narrowed the odds of escape. Then came the moment that decided everything, not a duel of giant guns, but a handful of slow old biplanes from HMS Ark Royal. On the 26th of May, torpedo bombers flew through foul weather and found the Bismarck. One torpedo hit near the stern and jammed Bismarck's rudders. Attempts to free them would fail, and the great battleship began to turn in a circle, unable to steer effectively. In another era, she might have slipped away, but in 1941, with aircraft, radar, and coordinated fleets, that single hit transformed a chase into an inevitable confrontation. When dawn broke, Bismarck faced an overwhelming force. The battleships HMS King George V and HMS Rodney closed in, supported by cruisers and destroyers. They opened fire at close range. Salvo after salvo smashed into Bismarck. Her forward turrets were knocked out. Rangefinders were destroyed, fire control positions were wrecked. She continued to fire for a time, but her shooting became erratic as systems were shattered. Eventually her main battery fell silent. This is the second reason the legend can distort reality. People remember the size of her guns. They forget the fragility of the systems that make guns effective. A battleship fights with optics, rangefinders, communications, generators, and disciplined coordination. When those are smashed, even the heaviest guns lose meaning. Bismarck's end was not a single dramatic explosion. It was a gradual reduction. A powerful warship battered into helplessness. As the wreck burned and flooded, scuttling charges were set. Survivors later testified that the crew opened sea valves to hasten the sinking and prevent capture. British torpedoes also struck during the final phase. Modern surveys of the wreck suggest that both battle damage and scuttling contributed. By the time she rolled and went under, the outcome was beyond doubt. More than 2,000 German sailors died. And yet, in memory, Bismarck grew larger. She became the monster that required a massive hunt. She became a symbol of German naval ambition. She became a warning about pride and vulnerability. For Britain, her destruction restored morale after the loss of Hood. For Germany, she became a martyr of the surface fleet. But step back and ask the simplest question. What did Bismarck actually achieve? She sank Hood, a loss of enormous human and emotional weight. She damaged Prince of Wales. She forced the Royal Navy to deploy significant resources in pursuit. But she did not reach the Atlantic shipping lanes in force. She did not sink merchant convoys. She did not alter the overall course of the Battle of the Atlantic. She did not survive long enough to shape strategy through sustained action. In practical terms, her sortie demonstrated something else. That a solitary capital ship, without adequate air cover and logistical depth, could be tracked, fixed, and destroyed by a coordinated naval network. In that sense, Bismarck's career was less a triumph of battleship power than a lesson in its limits. She was impressive. She was dangerous. She was modern in many respects. But she was also a product of an era already slipping away. At the end of the war, people preferred simple stories. Giants. Hunts. Revenge. One ship against an empire. Bismarck fit that need perfectly. Yet the colder chain of cause and effect tells a narrower story. A powerful ship sent on a high-risk mission. Damaged early. Hunted relentlessly. Disabled by aircraft. Overwhelmed by superior numbers. A legend born in minutes and ended in days. Bismarck's name still sounds like thunder. It still draws attention. It still dominates discussions of battleship warfare. But the sea records outcomes, not reputations. And Bismarck's outcome was this. A single stunning victory. A relentless pursuit. A crippling hit from the air. A final bombardment at close range. And then silence beneath the Atlantic. A legend that outlived the ship. From the gun decks to the bridge, every story we tell honors those who served. If this tale made you feel the salt and steel of history, give it a like, and if you're not yet part of our channel's convoy, subscribe and join the ranks. More powerful stories await.